The monitor beeped steadily in the quiet hospital room as Marcus Johnson stood frozen in the doorway, his 5-year-old daughter Emma clutching his hand. The elderly woman in the bed slowly turned her head, her eyes, sharp and clear despite her frail appearance, meeting his. "You're not my nephew," she said simply. Neither of them could have possibly known that this accidental encounter would change both their lives forever. If you're touched by stories of unexpected kindness and second chances, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming tales that remind us of the beauty in human connection. Marcus Johnson had always prided himself on being resourceful. After his wife died during childbirth, leaving him alone with newborn Emma, he'd learned to stretch every dollar, working 2 jobs while somehow managing to be present for his daughter. But when Emma developed a mysterious illness that required specialized treatment, the medical bills quickly overwhelmed him. The hospital payment plan alone consumed half his monthly income, and he'd recently been laid off from his primary job at the manufacturing plant. Today had been particularly difficult. After Emma's appointment, they'd gotten turned around in the hospital's confusing corridors. Emma had been complaining about being hungry, and Marcus was desperately trying to find the cafeteria when they accidentally walked into what they thought was a shortcut. "I'm sorry," Marcus stammered, backing away from the doorway. "We got lost. We'll leave you in peace." "Wait," the woman called, her voice surprisingly strong for someone who looked so fragile. "You look like you could use a seat. And your little one there, she seems tired." Emma, always shy around strangers, pressed herself against Marcus's leg. "We don't want to disturb you," Marcus said politely. "Nonsense. I've had nothing but nurses checking my vitals and doctors speaking in hushed tones for days. Some company would be welcome." She gestured to the chairs beside her bed. "Please." Something in her eyes, a loneliness that Marcus recognized all too well, made him hesitate, then nod. "Just for a minute. I'm Marcus, and this is my daughter, Emma." "Eleanor Blackwood," the woman replied. "Pleased to meet you both." Marcus didn't recognize the name, but there was something dignified about Eleanor that suggested she was accustomed to respect. Her hospital room, though standard issue, contained small touches of luxury, a silk robe draped over a chair, an expensive-looking watch on the bedside table, a leather-bound book with gold-edged pages. "What brings you to the hospital today?" Eleanor asked, her eyes kind but evaluating. Before Marcus could answer, Emma spoke up. "I have special blood," she said matter-of-factly. "It makes me tired sometimes." Eleanor's expression softened. "Special blood, you say? That sounds very important." Marcus explained Emma's condition, a rare form of anemia that required regular treatments and monitoring. As he spoke, he found himself sharing more than he intended, the struggle to keep up with medical bills, his recent job loss, his fear of not being able to provide Emma with the care she needed. "I'm sorry," he said, suddenly embarrassed. "I don't know why I'm telling you all this." Eleanor waved away his apology. "Sometimes it's easier to talk to strangers." She studied Emma, who had climbed onto a chair and was flipping through a magazine. "She's a beautiful child. You're doing a wonderful job with her." "I'm trying," Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. "Some days are harder than others." "And what about today? How hard is today?" Marcus hesitated, then admitted, "Today I found out our insurance is denying coverage for Emma's next round of treatments. They're saying it's experimental." He swallowed hard. "I don't know what I'm going to do." Eleanor was quiet for a moment, then asked, "Do you believe in fate, Mr. Johnson?" The question caught him off guard. "I'm not sure anymore." "I do," Eleanor said firmly. "I believe you walked into my room today for a reason." She glanced at the door, then lowered her voice. "The doctors have given me 3 months to live. Pancreatic cancer. Terminal." "I'm so sorry," Marcus said, genuinely distressed for this woman he'd just met. "Don't be. I've lived a full life. But do you know what I don't have?" Mr. Johnson? I don't have family who cares whether I live or die. My nephew visits occasionally, but only to ensure his inheritance remains secure." Her mouth twisted bitterly. "He'll be disappointed to learn there isn't much left." Marcus didn't know how to respond to such raw honesty. "The truth is," Eleanor continued, "I've made many mistakes in my life. I prioritized wealth over relationships. I built an empire but no home." She looked at Emma again. "What I wouldn't give to have raised a child like yours." Before Marcus could respond, a nurse entered the room. "Ms. Blackwood, it's time for your medication." She looked surprised to see visitors. "I didn't realize you had company." "These are my friends," Eleanor said firmly. "They'll be visiting regularly from now on." The nurse raised her eyebrows but said nothing as she administered Eleanor's medication. After she left, Eleanor turned to Marcus. "Would you and Emma come back tomorrow? I find I enjoy your company." Marcus hesitated. He had job interviews scheduled, but something about Eleanor's request touched him. "We'd be happy to," he said. What began as a chance encounter soon developed into a routine. Every afternoon, Marcus and Emma would visit Eleanor. They'd bring small gifts, wildflowers Emma picked from a nearby park, a paperback novel Marcus thought Eleanor might enjoy, drawings Emma made especially for her, Ms. Ellie. Eleanor, in turn, shared stories from her life, tales of business deals and world travels that captivated both Marcus and Emma. She never explicitly mentioned wealth, but Marcus gathered she had once been quite successful before, as she put it, a series of unfortunate investments. As the weeks passed, Eleanor's health deteriorated visibly. Her cheeks hollowed, and dark circles formed under her eyes. Yet her spirit remained undimmed. She took a particular interest in Emma, asking about her dreams and encouraging her imagination. One afternoon, about a month after their first meeting, Eleanor asked Marcus to come alone the next day. "There's something important I need to discuss with you," she said, her expression serious. Marcus arranged for Emma to stay with a neighbor and arrived at the hospital the following day with a sense of foreboding. Eleanor looked worse than ever, her breathing labored. "Thank you for coming," she said, gesturing for him to sit close to her bed. "I don't have much time left, and there are things you need to know." "Eleanor, you don't have to." She held up a hand to silence him. "My name is Eleanor Blackwood of Blackwood Enterprises." The name suddenly clicked in Marcus's mind. Blackwood Enterprises was a massive conglomerate with interests in everything from real estate to pharmaceuticals. He'd assumed Eleanor was perhaps a retired executive or manager, not the Blackwood. "The company is worth billions," Eleanor continued, "but few people know that I've been living under an assumed identity for the past decade. After a hostile takeover attempt that nearly succeeded, I realized I couldn't trust anyone. I withdrew from public life, managed my affairs through intermediaries, and watched from a distance as people I thought were friends revealed their true colors." Marcus listened in stunned silence as Eleanor explained how she had continued to grow her wealth in secret, making investments through shell companies and anonymous trusts. "My nephew believes I lost everything years ago. He visits out of a sense of obligation, hoping perhaps that some small inheritance might still materialize." She smiled grimly. "He has no idea." "But why are you telling me this?" Marcus asked, bewildered. Eleanor reached for his hand. "Because in you and Emma, I've found something I thought no longer existed, genuine kindness without expectation of return." Her grip tightened. "I've made arrangements, Marcus. When I'm gone, you and Emma will be taken care of." Marcus pulled his hand away, standing abruptly. "No. That's not why we've been visiting you. We never wanted anything from you." "I know that," Eleanor said softly. "That's precisely why I'm doing this. Please, sit down." Reluctantly, Marcus returned to his seat. "I've watched you with Emma," Eleanor continued. "You're a good father, the kind of parent I wish I'd had. But you're drowning in medical debt, and Emma needs stability. She paused, gathering strength. I've established a trust for Emma's medical care. It will cover all her treatments, no matter how experimental. And I've arranged for you to be offered a position at one of my companies, a real position, based on your qualifications, not charity. Marcus shook his head, overwhelmed. I can't accept this. You can and you will, Eleanor said firmly. Not for yourself, but for Emma. Consider it payment for the joy you've brought to an old woman's final days. Before Marcus could argue further, Eleanor suffered a coughing fit that brought nurses running. He was ushered from the room as doctors were called. That night, Marcus barely slept, torn between gratitude and discomfort at the idea of accepting such generosity. By morning, he had decided to thank Eleanor but gently decline her offer. However, when he arrived at the hospital, he found Eleanor's room empty, the bed stripped. His heart sinking, he approached the nurse's station. Eleanor Blackwood, has she been moved to another room? The nurse looked up from her computer. Ms. Blackwood passed away early this morning. I'm sorry for your loss. Marcus stood there, stunned. He hadn't expected the end to come so quickly. Was anyone with her? He asked, his voice breaking. No, the nurse said sadly. She was alone. The thought of Eleanor dying without family or friends by her side filled Marcus with profound sorrow. He thanked the nurse and walked numbly toward the elevator, unsure what to do next. As he reached the hospital lobby, a tall, distinguished man in an expensive suit approached him. Mr. Johnson? I'm James Harrington, Ms. Blackwood's attorney. She asked me to contact you immediately following her passing. In a private conference room, Harrington explained that everything Eleanor had told Marcus was true. She had indeed been the reclusive owner of Blackwood Enterprises, with a personal fortune estimated at over $3 billion. Ms. Blackwood made changes to her will the day after she met you, Harrington said, opening a leather portfolio. She established a medical trust for Emma that will cover all her healthcare needs for life. She also created an educational trust to fund Emma's schooling through graduate studies if she chooses to pursue them. Marcus listened in disbelief as Harrington continued. Additionally, she's left you a significant personal bequest and arranged for you to be offered the position of Community Outreach Director at the Blackwood Foundation, with a salary commensurate with your experience and responsibilities. I don't understand, Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper. Why would she do this for us? She barely knew us. Harrington smiled gently. Ms. Blackwood left you a letter that might explain better than I can. He handed Marcus an envelope sealed with wax. Later that night, after putting Emma to bed, Marcus finally opened Eleanor's letter. Her handwriting was shaky but determined. Dear Marcus. Asterisk if you're reading this, I've left this world behind. Don't grieve for me, my life was long and, in many ways, fortunate. What I lacked was not opportunity or resources, but the wisdom to recognize what truly matters, asterisk. Asterisk you may wonder why I've chosen to include you and Emma in my legacy. The answer is simple, you gave me a gift far more valuable than anything money could buy. In the twilight of my life, when I had resigned myself to dying alone, you and your daughter showed me kindness without agenda. You shared your time, your stories, your struggles, and your joy, asterisk. Asterisk I watched you with Emma and saw what real wealth looks like. Despite your financial hardships, you are rich in the ways that matter most. You've created a home filled with love, respect, and hope, asterisk. Asterisk my fortune can buy many things, but it cannot buy another chance at life. What it can do is ensure that Emma receives the medical care she needs and that you, Marcus, are freed from the crushing burden of debt that threatens to break your spirit, asterisk. Asterisk the position at the Blackwood Foundation is not charity, it is an investment in someone I believe will use the resources wisely and compassionately. The Foundation's mission is to help families facing medical crises, particularly single parents. Who better to lead such an initiative than someone who understands the struggle firsthand, asterisk. My only request is that you live your life with the same integrity and kindness you've shown me. Teach Emma that true wealth lies not in bank accounts but in how we treat one another. And perhaps, occasionally, remember the old woman who found peace in your company, *. With gratitude and affection. Eleanor Blackwood. Tears streamed down Marcus's face as he finished reading. The letter captured Eleanor's voice so perfectly he could almost hear her speaking the words. In the months that followed, Marcus and Emma's lives transformed in ways they could never have imagined. Emma's health improved dramatically with access to cutting-edge treatments previously denied by insurance. Marcus found purpose in his work at the Blackwood Foundation, helping families navigate the complex healthcare system and providing grants for medical expenses not covered by insurance. The foundation, under Marcus's leadership, became known for its innovative approaches to supporting families in medical crisis. He established programs specifically for single parents, including childcare assistance during hospital stays and career counseling for those whose jobs were jeopardized by their children's illnesses. On the anniversary of Eleanor's death, Marcus took Emma to the hospital where they had first met Eleanor. They brought flowers to the nurses who had cared for her and made a substantial donation to the oncology department in her name. As they left the hospital, Emma looked up at her father. "Do you think Ms. Ellie can see us from heaven?" Marcus squeezed her hand. "I think she can. And I think she's very proud of how we're using her gift. Not just the money," Emma said with the wisdom that sometimes came from children who had faced serious illness. "The other gift." "What other gift?" Marcus asked. Emma smiled. "The gift of knowing that sometimes, when you're lost, you end up exactly where you're supposed to be." Marcus marveled at his daughter's insight. She was right, of course. That day, when they had accidentally entered Eleanor's room, they had indeed been lost, not just in the hospital corridors but in life itself, struggling to find a path forward against overwhelming odds. Eleanor's generosity had provided financial security, but her true legacy was the reminder that connections between people, even brief ones, could be transformative. A chance encounter had become a lifeline, not just for Marcus and Emma, but for Eleanor as well, giving meaning to her final days. As they walked to their car, Marcus reflected on the strange and beautiful twists of fate that had brought them to this moment. He thought of all the families the foundation had helped in Eleanor's name, the lives changed, the burdens eased. From one act of kindness, stopping to keep a lonely woman company, had grown a ripple effect of compassion that continued to spread. In the years that followed, the Blackwood Foundation became one of the most respected charitable organizations in the country. Marcus never forgot where it all began, with a wrong turn in a hospital corridor and an elderly woman who saw in a struggling single father and his daughter something worth investing in, not just her money, but her heart. And whenever he faced a difficult decision or challenging situation, Marcus would ask himself what Eleanor would do. The answer was always the same: choose kindness, choose connection, choose to see the humanity in others. In honoring her legacy this way, Marcus ensured that Eleanor Blackwood, the hidden billionaire who died with very little family but found a kind of family in her final days, would never truly be gone. The greatest inheritance, after all, wasn't the money or the opportunities it provided. It was the lesson that wealth without compassion was meaningless, and that sometimes the richest people were those who had nothing but their capacity to care. Emma grew up healthy and strong, eventually becoming a pediatric hematologist specializing in rare blood disorders like the one she had overcome. When patients or their parents asked how she had chosen her field, she would smile and tell them about a wrong turn in a hospital corridor and the extraordinary chain of events it had set in motion. Sometimes, she would say, echoing the wisdom she had shared with her father years before, being lost is just the beginning of finding your way.